and welcome to my channel. I'm Patty and this is my handmade lifestyle. In this video I'm going to show you how I make these fantastic cake mix cookies. They are based on a recipe from one of my favorite bakers, Sally of Sally's Baking Addiction. I will give you a link both to her channel and to her website. If you're one of my wonderful returning viewers, I would like to send out a big, huge hello and welcome and thank you for being here as always. I appreciate it so much. And if you are new to the channel, I would like to take this opportunity to invite you to subscribe while you're here. It's very easy. You just click that little thing in the corner. You'll subscribe right away. Make sure that you hit the notification bell for all of the notifications, because otherwise you're not going to see what I'm putting out, and I make videos a couple of times a week at least, so I'm sure you're going to want to see them all. Before we jump into actually making this recipe together, I want to say one thing. I want to say that it's really important that not only do you very carefully pre-measure all of your ingredients, you also want to really read the whole recipe thoroughly a couple of times. I have made these cookies in the past. I really liked them. That's why I'm making them for you here on the channel. What I forgot was they require a pretty significant chill time. Chill time means that you put the dough into the refrigerator or into the freezer for a certain amount of time. This is pretty common practice, especially in cookies, because it helps the butter to re-solidify, and when you have a solid butter that goes into the oven, your cookies will bake up much nicer. If your butter is too soft, you wind up with a greasy cookie, and nobody wants a greasy cookie, okay? Trust me. I don't care how good they are, nobody wants it to be greasy. So if you're having issues with greasy cookies, it's because your butter is too soft. You need to either make sure that your butter is colder when you cream it. Don't over cream it because you'll warm it up too much. Or the easiest thing is to scoop everything out, scoop out your dough, and put it into the fridge for a certain amount of time. Mary Berry says, read twice, bake once, and she knows what she's talking about. I love this cookie recipe because it tastes really good. It's got that fun little twist with the cake mix, which gives the cookies a really yummy, delicious taste. Also, it has extra sprinkles and extra chocolate chips, and who is not going to love that? They're pretty, they're tasty, they're fun. I would say if you have somebody who is not really a cake person, I don't know who these people are, but some people are not cake people, you might try cookies, this particular cookie, for a birthday party or any party, because they're just a party cookie. So in this bowl, I have the flour, the cake mix, the salt, and the baking soda. And then over here, I have my butter. I have my vanilla, my egg, my sprinkles, my chocolate chips, which are a mixture of milk chocolate and white chocolate. And then I have my sugars measured out over here, and I have brown sugar and regular sugar in one bowl together. So when we're making cookies, they're kind of all made the same. You're going to start out with creaming your butter and sugar. You're going to add your vanilla, you're going to add your egg, and then you're going to add in the dry ingredients, and then you're going to finish it off with the sprinkles and the chips. So the key to getting it right is to have all of your dry ingredients measured correctly, and you want your butter to be on the cold side. You really don't want the butter to be melty and goopy, because you're going to get greasy cookies when that happens. So we want our butter to be on the colder side. Room temperature is what we're looking for, but really if it's around 60 degrees, you're in good shape. And then we have our baking sheet ready to go. And I have lined it with parchment. So that's what we're gonna do. And all right, let's put everything in the mixer and see what it looks like and get it baked. And at that point, it's done. All we're trying to do is combine the flour and the wet ingredients. And when your mixer starts to have a little bit of a struggle, it's done. You do not want to overwork your dough. When your egg is mixed in, the wet part of it is done, and when you add the dry ingredients, as soon as it's combined, you want to stop mixing. I know there's a tendency to want to just put everything on high and go crazy. You really don't want to do that. To have the best cookies, you're just mixing until it's combined. I don't know how else to put it. All right, let's put in our chips, and then we will fold in the sprinkles. So this particular recipe recommends that if you have to wait longer than 2 hours, which at this point we're going to wait and finish the bake tomorrow, so that's overnight, and if we do that, then the dough should be scooped out into the little cookie balls for baking. So what we're going to go ahead and do is scoop them out, and we're going to put them in the freezer for overnight, and then tomorrow we'll bake them from frozen, and all we have to do is add a minute to our bake time and we'll have perfect cookies. And there's our cookies all scooped out, so we're going to just put them like this, uncovered, into the freezer for their little overnight slumber party, and in the morning we'll get them out and we'll bake them up. Aren't they the prettiest things? I think it's those sprinkles. I really like those sprinkles that I got for these. You do want to be careful about what sprinkles you put in your cookies. You don't want to put those little colored balls because they run everywhere. And if you want to test a sprinkle before using it in a baked good, sprinkle it on top of your ice cream. And if the color runs, then the sprinkle is going to run when you try to bake with it. And then it just looks like a muddy mess. But these hold up really well, and so I can definitely recommend them. From what I understand, the lighter colors hold up better, but I had some pastel looking ones and they still ran. But these in this particular shape worked well. So the sprinkles do matter. It's the next day. The cookies have had their little slumber party in the freezer overnight. They were pretty good. They only woke me up a couple of times laughing and giggling because, you know, sprinkles. So at this point, we're ready to bake. I have my oven preheated to 350. I've removed the cookies from the freezer for about 20 minutes. I have my baking sheet that I'm going to use already lined with parchment. So we're pretty much ready to go. So you don't want to bake from the really cold pan that you put your cookies in overnight because it's going to have a hard time in the oven getting to the right temperature. You're not going to get crispy on the bottom. Just use a room temperature cookie sheet when you go to bake. Just be sure to use a room temperature cookie sheet when you pull these from the frozen batch to go into the oven. Okay, so that's all I'm going to do. Let's bake these up, and I'm going to go for 10 minutes. Here's the frozen cookies, and if you've never done this before, I highly recommend it. You can do this with any cookie dough. Just scoop them out, put them onto a parchment on a flat sheet, freeze them all individually like this. And what you could do is, once they're frozen individually, they don't stick. So you could literally take your frozen solid little scooped cookie balls and put them into a Ziploc bag and just keep them in the freezer and just bake one or two here or there as you wanted. So you don't have to bake the entire batch at one time. if you don't want to. It's always a good option. Sometimes it's nice to just bake a sheet, have those, and then as time goes on, you can bake one or two, and then you get to have a fresh baked cookie whenever. There's nothing wrong with that. All right, so all we're going to do is just take them and put them over here. I've got my prepared cookie sheet, so we're just taking and spacing them out. They'll spread a little bit. Because we used so much of the cake mix and our dry ingredients, the cookies set up a bit differently than they would if it was all-purpose flour. So there's 9 on a sheet. Usually you'd like to get 12, but we're just going to do 9. So these I'm going to pop in the oven. These I'm going to pop back into the fridge so they stay cold. Okay, let's put them in. Also, I want to add, when you bake your cookies, make sure that it's the middle rack of the oven. You don't want them on the bottom, you don't want them on the top, you want them right in the middle so that the heat can circulate. So yeah, where you put stuff in your oven to bake, it's another really important step in getting your cookies or whatever it is you're making to come out just right. And I always use a timer. I know some people think that's weak or lame or whatever. You know what? Those people are not watching this channel. If you want your stuff to be consistent and you don't want to forget about it, set the darn timer. I wound up letting the cookies bake a little bit longer. They didn't look quite done to me. No, they just look perfect. Oh my goodness gracious. They look so good. Let me give you a closer peek. See how pretty they are? They're so fat. They're so good. We're going to let them hang out on the tray for 10 minutes. And that will let the cookies sort of have time to set up. It also lets the oven have a chance to really bring its temperature back up, because every time you open the door, you're letting heat escape. And if you just immediately put something back in, it's not quite the right temperature. I mean, it's baking is really an interesting way to cook, because it is so exact. So anyway, I wound up going 13 minutes on these. I used my judgment. They didn't look quite done to me, and so I just allowed them the extra few minutes. Now I think they're perfect. So while these are cooling off, we're just gonna kind of hang out and wait on them. Let me show you when we pull these cookies off the baking sheet. They're going to go over here on this cooling rack. And a cooling rack is a really important piece of equipment to have as part of your baking supplies. And you can use this for all of your baking. Any kind of cookie, any cake, anything like that. And the reason they're important is because it allows the air to circulate above and below so that your bake can cool evenly. Our cookies have had those few minutes to just kind of hang out on the baking sheet, and look at how nicely they come up. I know that we've all tried to take our cookies off of the tray as soon as they come out of the oven, and what happens? They are so gooey and they just fall apart. And while yes, that is very tasty, it doesn't make for a really good cookie. And something else I want you to notice is that on this paper, it's completely dry. There's no greasy residue. And that is because our butter was properly chilled when we baked. So if you are making your cookies and there's a whole bunch of greasy residue on the paper, the sheet, or whatever it is you use, your butter is not cold enough as you're baking the cookie. And there you go. Look at that. Aren't they gorgeous? Okay, I'm going to go ahead and do another tray, and let's see how many we get, and I'll meet you back here and we'll try one out. My last tray of cookies is in the oven. I'm averaging about 12 minutes on a bake, and I'm getting 9 per sheet. And they're really pretty. Oh my goodness. So these are the first ones I baked, and you can see I was able to just stack them right up. These just came off of the cookie sheet. I want you to see underneath. See how they're lightly browned? They're not greasy. It's all in the butter. I read most of it. I haven't read completely the book. I've read a lot of the book on baking technique, and it's all about the butter. And she has a very particular way that she does cookies, and we're going to do that on the channel as well. So don't go anywhere. If you're interested not only in how the recipe is made, but why it works the way it does and how to get the best results, then yeah, definitely stick around. So let's try out this cookie. This is the one that just came out. It's still warm. Oh my goodness. It's so good. Oh my gosh. I did a combination of chocolate. It has the nicest texture. Oh my gosh. You will never buy cookies in the grocery store again. You may not buy them from the bakery. The cake mix, it just gives you the softest, I don't know, they're magic. These are literally magical cookies. That's all I can say. I want you to also see how the sprinkles didn't run everywhere? Those are good sprinkles. Let me see what they are. And they're called sprinkles, rainbow jimmies. So jimmy is the shape. So that oblong shape is how you know it's a jimmy. But see how they're like lighter colored? That's what you want. They don't run nearly as bad as the little balls. If you get the little balls, it's going to be a mess. But of course, Wilton, they're like the leader, I guess, at this point in cake crafts. So, you know, they might be a little more expensive, but they're going to give you a better product. And I believe I picked these up in my grocery store. So look for them. These are good. And you can see in the cookie, I mean, look at that. They're just beautiful. So, okay, that's the video. These cookies are amazing. They're a little bit of an extra step in terms of having to freeze them overnight, but it's worth it. Just plan on making the dough one day and baking the next. And to be honest with you, I find that baking can be tiring. It's a lot of work to stand there and do all the precision mixing and measuring and blah, blah, blah. The baking can take a while. And a lot of times I actually enjoy my bakes more when I can split them up, because I have one day where I do all of the putting it together, the next day where I'm doing the actual baking. So look at it that way. You'll just enjoy your baking more. It gives you a lot to look forward to. And trust me, you're gonna love these cookies. So that's the video for this week. I sure hope you enjoyed it. Make sure you subscribe to the channel, watch all the videos, and if you have a special request for something, well, let me know. And if I can make it, I'll make it for you and let you know what I learn in the process. Okay, that's it. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.